Alright, now that we won this fucking game of chess, let's fucking go on to the real topic of this fucking stream. Nick Fuentes on immigration. We're talking about Nick today. Fucking Groiper Nation unite, baby. Griping with Garrett. We fucking going off out here. Let's get it. You check out the last video by Keith Woods that I sent you. I don't know. Who the fuck is Keith Woods? I don't remember that video. Sorry, man. All right, let's get right into it.
But we can see very, very clearly in the case of Virginia how.
Also, let me know if the music in the background's too loud. I might need to turn that off.
Everything proceeds from immigration.
Everything proceeds from immigration's the most important issue, guys. The biggest issue is keeping them browns out, keeping them brown folks out of this country.
How that is, I could tell you how it is, but I could also show you with a whiteboard the cycle of what's happening in our country.
Ooh, he's bringing out the whiteboard.
Maybe this will show you in a very visual way.
Also,
the process that is taking.
I've been struggling to find a good Nick Fuentes video with some like actual fucking content in it, where he's actually making arguments. Because a lot of the clips of Nick Fuentes on YouTube are just him fucking going off on Jews or fucking women or fucking. He's just making jokes the whole fucking video, like. I don't get how people can watch so little substance in a content creator. But hey, he's popular and he's gotten me a lot of fucking clout by responding to him. So I'm gonna fucking ride this clout wave, guys.
Taking place. How we get to a blue Virginia.
Oh, the second I start a fucking Nick Fuentes video, my viewer count jumps up from 4 to 8. Fucking doubles.
Confiscation. We've got a nice little flow chart here.
Oh, also, he's talking about Virginia in this video. Virginia. Is that where you think about when you think about immigrants coming into the country? The immigrants are just flooding into the fucking country, but they're heading right for Virginia. Not stopping in Texas. Not even fucking stopping in, like, Tennessee or fucking somewhere in the middle. They're coming from Mexico, swimming all the way up the fucking Mississippi River, then taking a right at fucking Tennessee and going straight to fucking Virginia so that they can take the guns from the fucking from our good old boys in Virginia.
As I said, it will show you how gun confiscation and other bad policies proceed. They are the consequence.
Gun confiscation. This is the fucking fear people have. Like, gun control's not that big of a fucking debate anymore, man. Nobody's trying to fucking take your guns. Nobody fucking talks about gun control, really. Unless there's a mass shooting. Then everybody fucking talks about it for a week and nothing really happens because gun control's not gonna fucking prevent a mass shooting. Like, oh, we're gonna fucking take the guns from everybody. Now there's gonna be no more shootings, guys. How childish do you have to be? But anyways, the gun control issue is not that big of a fucking deal. Like, oh man, like let's put in some common sense regulations, do all that shit. That's really all people are advocating for. Maybe like a few background checks, and these people are acting like, oh fuck, they're gonna take all our fucking guns away. It's just like the issues that these conservatives concern themselves with, like the Nick Fuentes types and the Groipers. They concern themselves with such unimportant issues. They're obsessed with like their conception of free speech, which means that they should use the government to force Twitter to platform everybody. And their conception of gun control, gun rights, meaning that everybody should own every gun, which, hey, I'm a big fan of gun rights as well, but they have like no restrictions on guns, no background checks. I'd never heard a good case for that one. I really haven't. Back when I was a libertarian, I actually remember I would get in arguments about gun control, and then people would come with a background check argument, and like, why can't we just have background checks? And I'm like, well, shit. I don't see any reason why we can't without being a fucking without turning into a fucking conspiracy theorist who's like, oh, the fucking deep state and the fucking Jews are trying to take away all our guns. Oh fuck. Like, oh man.
Of mass immigration. So I'll turn down my brightness here so you can see a little bit.
This sounds way too loud.
This is the cycle that we have witnessed.
This is the cycle, guys. Immigrants come to America. Immigrants vote Democrat. Democrats win elections. Dems passed policies furthering dispossession of Native Americans. Native Americans? I didn't know Nick Fuentes was a supporter of the fucking Cherokee Union now. Yeah, fucking Cherokee rights, guys. Stop the fucking Dakota pipeline, guys. Stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. Damn, Nick pointing out the real issues here. The Native Americans on the fucking on the reservations in deep poverty because of the federal government. Nick Fuentes looking at the real issues out here. Oh, man.
For the past 50 years.
Oh, and this is just the basic, immigrants vote Democrat. Democrat bad. This is the fucking basic argument.
You've got step one.
Yeah, he has to write it on a whole fucking whiteboard. Like, oh, this is such a fucking deep, intellectual argument here. This is just the immigrants vote Democrat.
Immigrants come to America. Now, most people have no problem with this. People have a problem with gun confiscation. They've got a problem with socialism, big government. They've got a problem with high taxes.
Yeah, because that has more of an impact on your life than a few fucking brown people coming into the country. Like, good lord.
People not assimilating. But most conservatives even are in favor of step one. Immigrants are coming to America. America's a nation of immigrants, right? Just like our ancestors, you know? Our ancestors came from Italy and England and Germany and Sweden and Spain and Poland.
Are those white people now? Shit. Those people have not been not been white historically.
Now they're coming from Mexico. I'm sure that's fine. I'm sure that's a totally...
I love how Nick Fuentes has the perfect lighting to make him appear white when he's actually a fucking Latino.
Trivial, arbitrary difference. Now they're coming from China and India and Korea. So even if you're a Polish, you'd come and settle in the, as the New York Times says, these green mountains, these green hills, I should say, in Northern Virginia for generations. If you're Polish, if you're English, just like people had for centuries.
Make a fucking argument, bro. This is fucking boring.
Filled with Koreans and Indians.
This is why I can't watch Nick Fuentes. He goes on about the fucking green mountains and fucking all this weird shit. He just like make an argument. He's making one argument in this video. Democrat, immigrants vote Democrat. Like, what's so bad about fucking Democrats? I'm gonna vote Democrat in the next election.
That's all. It's all qualitatively the same. So first step is immigrants come to America. Of course, step number two is the immigrants vote Democrat. We all know this. Everybody knows this.
Sure, I mean, I'm a vote Democrat. What's so bad about the Democrats? The Democrats are the ones who want to largely free up our rights. I mean, most Democrats, like one of the big ones is free speech. That common argument, which nobody's really advocating against free speech out here. Maybe there's a few fucking lesbians on the college campuses, that are like, oh, fucking ban all speech, but those are not the majority of people. Most people don't want to ban free speech. Most people don't want to take all the guns, but those are really the only issues that the right wing is concerned with government intervention and government overstepping their bounds. But when you look at the Democrats, on the other hand, like the Democrats are like pro everyone's rights. They're pro like trans rights. They're pro fucking immigration. They're pro let people hire whoever they want for, or not that necessarily economically, but let people hire immigrants if they want to. Let people fucking smoke weed. Let people watch porn. Let people live their fucking lives without the government inflicting whatever morality they want on them. Let's keep going.
Consciously, we know that blacks vote 91% on a bad.
I mean, blacks are not generally the immigrants, man. The blacks who vote Democrat are mostly the African Americans. I think black immigrants actually vote more conservative than black people who were born here. I mean, that's just my general understanding, because the black people who were born here, they have this deep-seated like feeling of the problems with slavery, because like their grandparents were under Jim Crow. Like it was very recently that there was oppression of the black community, so they still have this resentment for the white people. Kind of, it's kind of just generally the white people, or just the current systems in place. So then they want to change it. They want to be progressive, because the Democrats have largely been the anti-slavery party lately, the party of like reparations for slavery and those sort of things. Now, I don't agree with reparations for slavery, obviously, because that's fucking stupid. I shouldn't have to pay a black person because people who had my same skin color enslaved their people 200 fucking years ago. But generally, it's the native-born black people who vote primarily Democrat, and the immigrants, they don't have that same history here. They don't have those same problems here, so they don't vote as Democrats. So he's talking about immigrants voting Democrat, and then he immediately pivots to black people. It seems like you have a problem with brown people, Nick. It doesn't seem like your problem's with immigrants as much as it's with people with a brown skin color. Like that, he's like, oh, immigrants. That's just a fucking dog whistle for brown people. It really is. It's so fucking obvious when his first pivot, when his first example of immigrants voting Democrat, it's, oh, blacks vote 90 some percent Democrat. Like that's his first argument. That's his first jump here. Plus, I'm a fucking Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat, guys. Like, on all issues except for economics, which economics is pretty fucking big, I agree with the Democrats. Oh, man. But, hey, let's keep going. Basically, the only time I disagree with the Democrats is when they want to regulate the economy. But most of the time, the Democrats are very, very pro-freedom. It's interesting. Like, the Democrats are the ones who want to let more immigrants into the country. They want to end the drug war. That's a big one. They want to basically decriminalize things that don't hurt anyone but yourself, that aren't initiating force on other people, except for in the economic realm, obviously. But like morality, they're the only people who don't want to legislate morality. But Nick out here, he wants to ban gay marriage, fucking stop transgender people from transitioning, fucking ban weed, ban porn, ban everything that, if it's a sin, you fucking ban that shit. It's retarded.
Bad day for Democrats. On a good day, they vote 98% for Democrats. We saw that in 2000.
What about the Cubans, though? The Cubans are immigrants. The Cubans vote very pro Republican.
With Barack Obama, we saw that in recent governor's elections in the South last month in November. The Louisiana governorship, the Mississippi governorship, 98% blacks for Democrats. We see in California and across the country with it.
Yeah, a lot of the fucking Republicans down south are like legitimately fucking racists. Like I know it's like, oh, fucking calling people racist, oh, so fucking cringe. No, but like a lot of the fucking down south Republicans are like legit fucking racists. I don't know if you guys have seen that video of where Sacha Baron Cohen ended that fucking dude's career because he was like yelling the fucking N-word. Yeah, have you seen that? Have you seen the fucking This Is America video of fuck. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you remember. But the dude was like, he was just being convinced to say all these racial slurs. Sacha Baron Cohen's funny as fuck. He exposes so many people. It's incredible.
Hispanics, 75% for Democrats. Hispanics have not in this century, voted more than 35% for a Republican president.
And I don't fucking blame them, because the fucking Republicans want to keep out all of their people. They want to keep out all the fucking all the immigrants, their family. So a lot of immigrants vote Democrat in self-defense. It's literally just for self-defense, so that they can stay in the country. It's not that they actually fucking believe a lot of the shit that the Democrats believe. Like, a lot of these immigrants are pretty conservative people. They have pretty conservative social values. I mean, I disagree with that, but you would probably agree with a lot of the traditional family type stuff. A lot of them are Catholics. A lot of them are very, very conservative in a lot of their beliefs. But they obviously vote Democrat in self-defense because the Democrats want to keep them here. Like I knew a kid who was he's not a immigrant from Mexico, but he's from Asia. And he was like really fucking conservative. He was a really libertarian. Like I would talk with him about Ayn Rand, and now Ayn Rand's not a libertarian, but I would talk with him about economics, and we'd agree on a lot of different things. He's actually an economics major, and he said he's gonna vote Democrat because if he doesn't vote Democrat, he's scared that Trump's gonna get him out of the fucking country. He's gonna get kicked out of the country because he's here on like. He's not technically an American citizen. Oh, wait, no, so then he can't vote. Never mind. So if he could vote, he said he would vote Democrat, just because he'd be able to stay in this country and not go back to his home country where gay people are actually persecuted. And he's actually gay, so he doesn't want to get fucking killed. So, but Yeah, that's a whole thing. Oh yeah, DDV just said Hispanics didn't exist before the 70s. The group created by the group. That is a group created by the federal government for census. Oh shit, like that's true. Like fucking Hispanics look white as hell sometimes. Like Hispanic's not even technically a race. Like if you look up the list of the races, like or when like if you have you ever taken a fucking survey where they're like asking your race, your ethnicity, that sort of stuff. Like Hispanic is never listed under race. There's always a separate question like, oh, are you of Hispanic or Latino origin? Because Hispanic's not a race. Hispanic is just an ethnicity. It's the country that you're from. And I mean, Nick Fuentes would technically be considered a white Hispanic. There's a lot of white Hispanics out there.
Asians, 75% Democrat. So across the board, Asians and Hispanics at 75%, that's like the low water mark. And for blacks, the low water mark is 90%. So we know that immigrants are coming to America. The immigrants are all non-white. Virtually all of them are from either Africa, Asia, or Latin America. The immigrants come to the country, and because they are non-white, they vote Democrat, you know, and we've talked a lot about...
Because they're non-white, they'll necessarily vote Democrat. I mean, what a denial of free will. What a denial of the fact that people are shaped by like their free will, by the things that they decide, the things that their own free will, their own decisions in life. What a denial of that obvious fact. It's not like just because you're fucking born black, you're gonna vote Democrat. Because you see a D, so you're gonna vote Democrat. Like, black people largely voted Republican for a lot of history. For most of history. Until obviously the great switch. Which I don't know how I feel about that, but that, like, I don't know how that's probably historically accurate. Most historians agree that there's this great switch that happened between, or what's it called, the Southern strategy, all that sort of stuff. Most people agree that there is that switch that took place, and yeah. So, I mean, black people voted Republican for a lot of history as well. So it's not like they're necessarily going to vote Democrat. And
why that is, that's probably another show. But they come here and they do vote Democrat, whether you understand it, whether you say it's because of they're not assimilating or they've been lied to by the media. They just haven't read Milton Friedman enough, but that's what's happening. Number 3, Democrats win elections. That is what happened in California. I will keep saying this because I think people...
I mean, a lot of the thing about Democrats is it's just because of self-defense. Like, Republicans are very explicitly anti-them. There's a lot of obvious racism in the Republican Party. Like, the fact that they jump straight to black people when you're talking about immigrants, like that's his first thing. Like, that's an obvious sign of racism. Like, if you watch a lot of bread tubers like Vosh, you can see like he does very well to point out like where people are making obvious racist mistakes, where people are obviously being racists in some of their assumptions. I mean, and one of those obvious assumptions is when you look at immigrants and you conflate all non-white people, like black people, for example. It's also prosperity that influences how most people vote. Yeah, that's true, because a lot of black people are generally poorer. And when people are generally poor, they're going to vote Democrat because Democrats want to give all these handouts to poor people. They want to use force to take away from the wealthy and give it to the poor people. And that sort of populist sentiment, it appeals a lot to poor voters when it would be more in their best interest, I would argue, to free up the economy and make it so there's more jobs, make it so that they can trade win-win with people. And I mean, that's better for their self-esteem as well.
Forget, but Ronald Reagan won California 4 times. Richard Nixon won California 6 times, easily. Richard Nixon won California 6 times, easily. Ronald Reagan won California 4 times, easily. We won California in 1988. George H.W. Bush did. I mean, that's not... in the grand scheme of things, that's...
because the immigrants flipped an entire fucking state. Okay. A little inflow of immigrants. Like, there's not that many fucking immigrants that are gonna change an entire fucking state's composition. Like, they're acting like people are fucking flooding over the border and completely replacing us. There's no evidence for that. What's the percentage of the country that's an immigrant? Percentage of U.S. that percentage of population, of immigrant population. Yeah, let's just do that. Yeah, 14.4%. There's not that many fucking immigrants in this country.
That's not a really long time ago. Why is California now a deep blue, hardcore, progressive, liberal shithole? Who do you think drove that electoral change and subsequent change in policy?
The Browns.
And therefore, change in quality of life. Well, it was mass immigration, and we know where it came from. It came from Asia, and it came from Latin America. This is the same process happening in Texas, Arizona.
Any studies that show this? Any evidence that shows this? He's just fucking saying these claims. Just like this is a thing that you notice with a lot of people like Nick. They just say stuff very confidently. Like, there's not that many fucking immigrants. Immigrants are not flipping entire states. It's just this fear-mongering that's so common with people on the right, because people on the right are generally scared. They're very scared of all these brown people. They just want to live in their suburban white neighborhoods with all their fellow whites who go to church with them every Sunday and go bend over on their knees and pray to their good Lord Jesus, who one day they'll go to heaven and experience real pleasure when Jesus puts his penis right in their asshole and stimulates that holy prostate.
Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Georgia, Florida, North.
You want me to look up California specifically? California immigrant population. What's the percentage though? 27%. See, that's still not that fucking much.
North Carolina, and yes, Virginia. So immigrants come to America. They vote for Democrats. Democrats win elections because they're driving all the population growth. The immigrants.
And still, even if immigrants made up a big portion of the population, there'd be no problem with that. There's no problem with immigration, because literally all it does is it gives us more workers, lets people meet new people, lets people experience new cultures. Like immigrants, when they assimilate, there's good stuff that happens. We get a new, more diverse culture, which is a good thing generally. Most of my friends are immigrants. Some of my best friends are immigrants, and like their different experiences have contributed to my life in a lot of positive ways. Like there's a lot of good stuff that comes from immigration, and immigrants are extremely positive on the economy. They commit less crime than the native born people, so they lower our crime rates. And yeah, I mean, immigration lowers crime, boosts our economy, and leads to more diversity, which is a good thing, I would argue. And they vote Democrat, and the Democrats are the party of freedom.
And this is the most important point. This is the longest point. These are all pretty simple and obvious, but this is the ultimate outcome. Of course, we know this too. Democrats pass policies.
It was enough to flip California from red to blue. Oh yeah, because fucking white people in California don't vote Democrat. Okay.
That further the dispossession of Native Americans. They further the dispossession of the Native American population. I'm not talking about American Indians. I'm talking about the people that have lived in this country for generations, which is mostly white people. They pass policies that further the dispossession of white people. What do you think chief among those policies would be? More immigration. This
it's just a cycle. Like, oh, they're passing policies that let even more immigrants come in, and this is even worse. Why is immigration bad? Give me an argument, dog. Oh, it's bad because Democrats will pass more policies that let even more immigrants in. Well, this is just circular reasoning. Look at it. He's doing a circle too. This is obviously circular reasoning.
Is the cycle that has eroded the country. And of course, this is really where everything starts to shoot out from. Once Democrats get in power, they pass not just immigration, but a variety of policies that further the dispossession of the native people. They pass things, for example, like going after guns.
Oh, and most first generation immigrants can't work. They're not can't vote. They're not citizens yet. They can't get on welfare. They're not citizens yet.
You know, they want to go after the Second Amendment. They want to do gun confiscation. They want to pass gun control. New immigrants do not believe in the Second Amendment. You can look at Pew Research. There is not a single non-white group of people. There's not a single non-white demographic in America that the majority of them support your right to bear arms. Not a single one. Pew Research.
What does that mean? What's the specific study? Like, what was the specific question? Is it, do they support background checks? Or is it, do they support gun confiscation? I don't think anyone really supports gun confiscation. But, I mean, I'm pretty centrist on guns. Like, I'm not fucking scared that the government's gonna come in and take all the fucking guns. Like, I'm perfectly fine with a few basic regulations on guns, because guns are a use of force, and because of that, it's the government's right to be involved in this sort of thing.
They also do things like they vote for hate speech legislation, like we have been seeing in New York City. It's now illegal to use illegal immigrant as a pejorative. We saw in Connecticut.
It's illegal to use illegal immigrant as a pejorative in New York City. Yeah, it's a fine. So this is obviously bad. But it's because of immigrants coming in? Yeah, because New York City is such a full of immigration country. Oh shit, there is a lot of immigrants in New York City. Never mind.
Some kid got arrested for saying the N-word in Naperville, not far from where I live. Some kid got arrested for making a racist joke. A high schooler got arrested for making a racist joke against a black classmate. They go after the First Amendment. There's another area.
See, these are all problems, but this is obviously like this is obviously a cultural phenomenon. It's not just because immigrants are coming in that they're changing the opinions of white people. They're changing opinions of the majority population. They're changing the opinions of the philosophy in this country. Like, a lot of this is just, we're telling immigrants, like, oh, hold on to your old culture, hold on to the past, hold on to the countries you came from. We're a multiculturalist country. Don't assimilate. And I mean, immigrants do what we tell them. When they don't assimilate, they don't assimilate. When we tell them not to assimilate, we tell them not to assimilate.
Research says, again, not a single non-white Democrat.
Also, I don't believe they're really fucking enforcing this illegal alien law. Like this, like they have this obsession with such small things. Like,
demographic in America is not in favor of hate speech laws. Does not believe.
Yeah, Daniel, you're right. New York is built on immigration, but it's the white immigrants that we want. Like,
that the First Amendment is immune from hate speech, right? Or they don't believe that First Amendment protects hate speech. They don't believe that. So you get anti-First Amendment. You get, of course, socialism. You get, of course, a variety of other things that are meant to facilitate Democrat electoral victories, like expanding the franchise, making democracy.
Look, I'm sorry, but there's not this big fucking movement to, like, ban hate speech all across America. That's not a big thing. This whole free speech warrior movement, that's not a fucking big deal. Like, there's this meme among the conservatives, the Dave Rubin types, that our free speech is under attack. The left is trying to stop us from talking about ideas. It's so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. I mean, historically, Democrats have been the most pro-free speech people, and the Republicans have largely been anti-free speech. Like, everybody is very, very pro-free speech when it agrees with them, when it's something that agrees with them. Otherwise, they're fucking very opposed to it. And that's true of the right wing as well. You can look at how they react to Democrats getting censored. There's basically no reaction. And a lot of the left wingers, they're very fucking pro-free speech. Like Cal Kalinske, Vosh, Destiny, all those people are very pro-free speech. Now there's the fucking crazy feminist SJWs, the people that don't actually exist in any large majority in this country, that are very anti-hate speech, but it is what it is.
More direct, doing away with the Electoral College, letting prisoners vote, letting you vote without an ID, right? Eroding the process of a legitimate election. So this is really the part where people are missing. I think everybody gets this. Everybody gets this part. Yeah, immigrants are coming here. They're voting Democrat. Democrats are winning elections. We understand all that. And people want to explain it away. Well, here's why. Well, here's what we need to do, whatever. But, I mean, this is ultimately the outcome. And why do you think Democrats are bringing in more immigrants? Because they know that immigrants will perpetuate this. They know that immigrants will perpetuate this system.
I love how his few examples of Democrats, like, passing policies to further dispossess Native Americans are like, they're going to let in more immigrants. They're going to pass hate speech laws. That was like one law that happened in New York, in one city. Or, oh, they're going to take all your guns, which not really happening. None of this stuff is really happening.
So, what they are doing is
they like to look at these sensationalist headlines, these very provocative headlines that talk about one specific occurrence and be like, oh, this one specific thing, this one little thing, immigration. It's the same as fuck. I lost my train of thought.
Weaponizing foreign populations against the Native American population. That is what we're seeing. It is the weaponization of foreign populations against the Native people, because they know, just look at the way they vote. They know that these people come over here and they will reliably vote for Democrats. They will not be asking questions. They will not be scrutinizing things. If anything, they become more democratic as they stay here longer. Particularly, you see this with Asians. Obviously, blacks have been here forever, and they vote Democrat more than anybody.
Blacks weren't really immigrants. Blacks were not really immigrants. And yeah, that's true, that we make them more Democrat. And my argument is that we are the ones making them into Democrats. We largely, through cultural influence, push immigrants to be more and more Democrats because Democrats are portrayed as the ones who protect immigrants, and rightfully so, because they're the ones who want to let immigrants in. They want immigrants to exist in this country. They want to protect the rights of these immigrants.
Right? What is the end goal of all of this? Well, in the first place, the first sort of situation is you're going to see white people become a minority in America. That's because of immigration. They bring in immigrants. Immigrants vote for mass immigration.
Who cares?
Immigration. And as a consequence, you just get this endless cycle of immigrants coming here. Immigrants vote for more immigration. More immigrants come here. The immigrants come here, vote for more.
Yo, you want to talk about the fucking data? Data's not on my side. Oh my god. We have a labor shortage. Our fucking illegal immigrants, immigrants lower crime. Immigrants boost the economy. Immigrants are more entrepreneurial. I think all the fucking data's on my side.
More immigrants come.
Don't come at me with this. There's no fucking data on your side. Yeah, there's a lot of fucking immigrants in this country. America's a country built on immigrants. There's a trend toward taking away people's rights among the Democrats. The Democrats are pretty bad right now. That doesn't fucking mean that immigrants are destroying the country. The people who are destroying the country are the fucking people on the college campuses, the professors, the people who are creating ideological movements. And it's people like Nick Fuentes as well. The people that are destroying this country are the fucking right-wingers and the left-wingers, who are both increasingly going more and more towards the fascist and socialist ends of their parties, respectively. I don't know if I use respectively right there, because I don't remember which one I said first, but whatever. Both fucking parties are terrible right now. Now, immigrants are going towards the Democrats, which is bad because the Democrats are bad. The Democrats have problems. But if they were going to the Republicans as well, it'd be just as fucking bad, because the Republicans are not very good either. They've completely abandoned capitalism. They've never really been on the side of social liberties. They've never been on the side of letting people live their own lives and do things that are immoral, or that people would consider immoral, like being gay is not immoral. Smoking weed is not necessarily immoral. It could be moral. I don't do it. I don't like weed. But masturbating to porn is not necessarily immoral. Masturbating is certainly not immoral. Porn, that's iffy. Like, oh my god. Don't fucking pretend like the fact that immigrants vote Democrat means that they're obviously taking away people's rights. Like, sure, it's going to affect economic liberty, but one thing that's included in economic liberty is being able to hire whomever you want to, even if they're from a different country. If you own a business, you can hire whomever the fuck you want to. You're not forced to hire American workers. That enslaves the business owner. You're not entitled to a job. You're not entitled to the labor of anybody. And that includes the businessman. That includes the entrepreneur.
That's really the cycle, right? But it's perpetual.
We are pro-American, not pro-capitalism. That's the fucking problem. You're not pro-American then. If you're not pro-capitalism, you're not pro-American. Why? Because capitalism is the system that defends individual rights. And the reason America is great, what America was built on, was individual fucking rights. don't come at me with anything fucking different, because you're obviously evading. You're evading history. Go read the fucking Declaration of Independence. Go look at history. Look at the Industrial Revolution. What was America? America was a capitalist, free country. And that's the reason that it's great. The reason that America's great is because it's been free. Is because it's the freest country in the fucking world.
Perpetuating other cycles. There's other externalities of this as well. So the first consequence is that, Democrats will solidify their control over the country.
Oh God, Mr. Marshdweller is talking about the fucking wages and GDP meme. Oh my God.
And white people.
Look, if you want to understand what the whole wages and productivity meme, and also don't use the word GDP. Use productivity like all the fucking other leftists do, because GDP is obviously evasive. Nobody cares about GDP. But let me fucking grab a book. This book thoroughly debunks the wages don't keep up with productivity meme. There you go. Wages keep up with productivity. Go read that book. Most economists argue. Actually, this is a huge debate among economists, because a lot of people are very critical of the whole wages productivity meme. Go listen to Yaron Burke. Yaron can explain it better than me. The thing is, the whole thing with it is they basically track productivity through the whole economy, and then they look at specific wages of specific workers, and then see if those track. Well, a lot of the productivity gains came from workers whose wages weren't tracked in the wage growth category. So it's a pure obfuscation with statistics.
Become a minority. Now, here's where gun control plays a really important part. Why do a lot of Republicans say we need the Second Amendment? What do they talk about specifically? What are some specific arguments they use against gun control? What examples? When they're trying to appeal particularly to minorities. They say, well, the first thing that Hitler did when he got into power was he took away the guns. If Jews had guns, they could have protected themselves against the Holocaust. They would have never been turned into lampshades and bars of soap if they just had their firearms. I don't know if that happened or not. I have to check with the Holocaust Museum.
Cringe.
That part of it. What about slavery? They say, well, blacks need firearms because firearms protected them against the KKK during the period of Reconstruction in the post-war South, right?
Yo, you guys sure seem to care about GDP. Why the fuck do you care so much about GDP Tiago, why do you care so much about GDP, my dude? I don't give a fuck about GDP. Nobody cares about GDP. Stop pretending like you do.
They say that minorities need firearms to protect themselves. What are we going to be in 30 years? What is the countdown? I think it's like 28 years. We're going to become a minority. So when conservatives...
Only if you assume that immigrants are going to come in at the same rate as they are currently. If you assume that they're going to keep having the same high birth rates as before, even as they become more wealthy when they come to a more wealthy country, which causes birth rates to go down. So there's all these assumptions that go into that idea of like, oh, immigrants are going to replace us in a few years. That's so stupid. It's so obviously a bad use of statistics. You can't just assume that a trend line is going to continue the same linear way forever. It's so stupid. Like, yo, in about like 200 or 300 years, immigrants are going to make up 110% of the population if current rates continue. Isn't that fucking stupid? Do you see what I fucking mean?
Just make these arguments about, the Nazis...
No, that's not what's used to support immigration. Who uses GDP to support immigration?
Took the guns, and, racist Southerners took away guns from blacks. We have sort of like this very patronizing attitude. Like, well, look, black people, you should support the Second Amendment because historically, look at what happened to you. We should be thinking about us. We should not be thinking about the Second Amendment in terms of the post-war South and Nazi Germany, because that's why Jews should support the Second Amendment, or that's why blacks should support the Second Amendment. Those people will be in the majority. I mean, obviously, Jews are 2% of the population, but, they will be a part of the non-European, non-white majority, the so-called people.
Why are you grouping them all together? Like, they're all fucking different groups of people. It's like whites versus all, us versus them. What a stupid mentality. How tribal can you be, my dude? Good lord.
Of color coalition of the ascendant that is ruling the Democratic Party. Same with blacks. Blacks are 13% of the population, but they are in line with that coalition of non-white, anti...
All right, my understanding of this whole... Okay, they're talking about the whole wage GDP growth meme. The whole wage and productivity meme. My understanding of that is that when they track the productivity of the economy, they include everybody, including, like, managers. I think managers is the big thing that I've heard. But when they track the wage growth, they don't include managers. They don't include all the most productive people, the people who have led to the most increases of productivity. So the reason that the wages of those people have been not increasing as much is because their productivity hasn't been increasing, which makes sense economically.
White, this voting bloc in the Democratic Party. So think about that. When we're telling people that you should support the Second Amendment, because think about your ancestors.
Oh yeah, and someone says people don't have a right to a job, but they have a right to citizenship. Nobody has a right to citizenship. Anybody has a right to hire whomever they want. And I'm fine with not letting immigrants become citizens when they're first generation. I'm perfectly fine with that. That's a power of the government. Is to decide when people become citizens, how naturalization occurs. But the issue is, do we allow immigrants to come into the country and get jobs? Do we allow businessmen to hire the immigrants? It seems like an obvious violation of rights to say that we're going to forcibly prevent immigrants from coming in and forcibly prevent people from hiring. Now we can obviously scan and check for diseases. We know that's a big deal now. I think we could have done stuff with immigration to prevent the coronavirus from coming in or something like that. The government would have the right to do that. Or prevent crime from coming in. If someone's a criminal, if we check their background and see that they've committed crimes in the past, we can obviously keep them from coming in.
They needed it. No. We should think about it because we're going to be the blacks in the Reconstruction era South. We're going to be the Jews in Nazi Germany. We're going to be the hated minority. What do you think is going to happen in the next 30 to...
He better be being ironic here. Holy shit.
40 years. They're going to take away the First Amendment, so you can't have hate speech. What does hate speech mean?
This is so obviously hyperbolic and so obviously fear-mongering. This is the thing about Nick. He just has all these hyperbolic statements, no real evidence backing it up. He's just playing to people's emotions. He's all feels here.
Say anything negative about non-white people. We know that
he feels like it's going to be bad if white people become a minority. He feels like they're going to be oppressed. Well, that's probably not going to happen. We're probably not going to become a minority, dog. Hate to break it to you.
And say negative things about white people. We know that the anti-white hatred in media goes on all day long, and it's not called out by law enforcement. Not even close to law enforcement. It's not even called out by the media. It's not even called out by anti-racists, so-called anti-racists, and anybody like that. It's not even called out by conservatives. So they're going to go after the First Amendment, and they're going to say hate speech is now illegal. So we can't even talk about things like this. That conversation's gone, right? They're going to expand the franchise. Illegal immigrants are going to get to vote. Prisoners are going to get to vote. They're going to encourage voter fraud.
I don't think anyone's advocating for literal fucking prisoners voting. They're obviously saying that people who are out of prison after they're done with their sentence should be able to vote. There's no problem with that. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? They're going to vote to fucking legalize murder? Oh, yes, now that I'm out of prison, I'm going to go to the polls and vote for somebody to legalize murder so that next time I commit a murder, I'm not going to go to prison for it. Plus, nobody's really advocating for illegal immigrants to vote either. I haven't heard that. It seems like they're just putting words in people's mouth. If you can cite me a specific person who said illegal immigrants should be able to vote, like,
need an ID to vote. This will only facilitate this process. The dispossession will continue. And then what do you think is going to happen when we're in a minority? What do you think these very vindictive, vengeful people are going to do when they get into power in states like California and Virginia? They're going to take your guns. And then what are they going to do when they take your guns? Then they're going to demand reparations.
Oh, and the South America meme is largely overhyped. And now there's obviously fucking problem in South Africa, but also South Africa was never built on individual rights like America was.
reparations. Do you see where this is going? Do you see what this is really about at the end of the day? They're going to demand reparations, affirmative action. We are looking in real time at the creation of an apartheid state in America.
The issue with your whole, okay, the issue with his whole, like, oh, there's going to be more workers, so it's going to decrease the value of work, is going to decrease wages. The issue is you're completely ignoring the fact that immigrants also buy things. Immigrants also increase economic productivity, economic growth. Well, you know what that means? It means that there's going to be more money in the economy for wages, to pay people. So the fact is, and you can use your misunderstanding of economics all you want to make that argument, but the fact is, immigration has no real effect on wage growth, on wages.
America.
Just look up some fucking studies.
We all know that's where it's headed. Nobody would call it that when whites were in the majority. Affirmative action is obviously a policy that benefits non-whites at the expense of whites, right? We look at all kinds of redistributive economic programs that benefit non-whites at the expense of whites. You know, all kinds of civil rights things. I mean, my parents grew up in Chicago.
I love how Chandler says the logic of capitalism is not to have top-down nerds decide what's best for the economy. And then Tiago says he's not defending that. What he's defending is controlling the job market. You literally said the same thing as Chandler said.
They had a business in Chicago. They could tell you about the abuses that went on, the kinds of wealth transfers and rules and all the different programs. I mean, we know about this. We're in the majority. It's almost like, well, we feel that's our noblesse oblige, and maybe, you know, we feel bad for them. It comes from a place of pity or benevolence or generosity, something like that. In other words, we don't really feel bad about doing it. What does that look like when we're in the minority? What does reparations look like when we're in the minority and we don't have guns? That is an apartheid state. When non-white people have certain privileges and we don't, that is called an apartheid state. And it might sound crazy right now. That might sound like something so far-fetched right now. Because
it's extremely fucking far-fetched. It's like you're just fear-mongering. Look, oh, we're gonna be in a fucking apartheid state in a few years. No, if people like you become in power, we're gonna be in a fucking theocracy in a few years too. So
we do not have any experience in this country living as a minority. And think about that. Who wants to live as a minority? Is that like a fun time? What has the media told us for like 50 years? Being a minority is the hardest thing. No matter what, being a minority is just the worst. People get you down. People discriminate against you. They're just...
I mean, it's not necessarily because you're a minority. It's because of cultural problems regarding black people and white people throughout history. It's not because they're a minority. Like, Asians aren't oppressed, and Asians are a minority. I think we all agree Jews aren't oppressed. Although there's some iffy things with that. Like, there's a lot of Jew hate out there. But they're largely not oppressed in this country. They're a minority. No, it's just the people that have had a history of oppression, and they're trying to overcome that history today. So when they talk about minorities being oppressed, they're talking about people like black people or Hispanics. Those are people who are actually advocating for policies that are very anti-them, that are very opposed to their interests. Now, we don't need to get into too many specifics here because I don't. There's a lot of stuff we could get into with the specific things about why black people have problems in this country and what the problems with Hispanics are in this country. A lot of it has to do with immigration and Republicans wanting to restrict immigration, and then with black people a lot. And the drug war has a lot to do with both people, with both especially. But there's a lot to get into there.
Mean to you, they're negative. They don't just swim in the pool. They don't just let drink out of the water fountain, and so on. That's where we're headed. Now, do you feel good about heading into minority status? Do you think that the people that are ascendant in this country?
I don't really care. I don't focus on groups. That's the issue here. Everybody's so fucking obsessed with groups. What group you're a part of. Who fucking cares? We're all individual people. Just live your fucking life and associate with whomever you want. And that includes immigrants. You can associate with immigrants if you want to.
Democrats leading this charge of people of color against the white supremacists. You feel really comfortable? You feel really good about that? You think that they are going to be benevolent to us as a minority as we are to them right now? Do you think that when we become a minority, when that day happens, that all these policies are going to flip and suddenly whites will become
Oh
the
God, segregation is a meme. It didn't materially harm blacks. Oh God.
beneficiaries of affirmative action, and whites will
Literally provide me any fucking evidence that segregating people didn't harm black people. That segregation didn't harm black people. Like, this is so ahistorical. Holy shit.
become the beneficiaries of, all these government programs, and we will be aggressively inserted in movies and advertisements for representation. Do you think we'll have our own advocacy group? No. When white people advocate for their own interests, it's called white supremacist. It's called white nationalist. We have a variety of, white advocacy groups: American Renaissance, American Identity Movement, VDARE, all these kinds. I mean, in some sense, are in favor of that. And what are they all called? They're all called white supremacists. They're targeted by the SPLC, the ADL, and so on. This is the big picture. This is the end game.
Not really. Individuals don't lose to groups every time. I'm talking to the chat again. Individuals don't lose to groups every time. The countries where where the rights of individuals are respected, do a lot better than countries where they're extremely focused on groups. I mean, think about how group focused and how tribal Africa was for most of history, and still probably is. There's still a lot of nationalism and tribalism in Africa, because not all black people are the same. There's a lot of different wars going on between different tribes and different groups there, and when you're so focused on the group and bettering the group, you're not going to be very successful. But when you just protect individual rights and let people stay free, you see America, you see Hong Kong, you see New Zealand, you see all these great free capitalist countries. I mean, New Zealand's a random inclusion there, but that's one of the most considered. The reason I included it is because it's considered very free economically.
That's where South Africa comes in. That is exactly where South Africa comes in. People wonder what bearing the situation in South Africa has on our current situation. There's a country where whites were in the minority.
Oh yeah, true, Chandler. You got him. If segregation's not so bad, and if being a minority leads to segregation, what's so bad about that? Why don't we just let the segregation happen? If segregation's not that bad, I thought.
And it was like it was the moment.
Oh yes, the only states with individual rights are the ones with vast white majority states. Yeah, because Hong Kong, white majority. Fucking Singapore's iffy. White majority. What are you fucking talking about? Chile, white majority. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here with this all fucking individual rights respecting, all economically free countries are white. Get out of here with that bullshit.
That it became democratic and they were outvoted and outnumbered by the majority that was non-white. What happened to them? They were forced to flee. Their farms were seized. They were tortured, raped, scalped. It's ongoing. It's a genocide. Is it crazy to say that could be our future in America? Maybe it's far off in the distance, but where's the arrow pointing? What is the trajectory right now? Because this is what I see happening in every single state in the country. Every single state in the country, this is happening, and you know this. It's happening. What happened in California?
What are you talking
about? The immigrants came to California. The immigrants voted Democrat. Democrats got elected.
He's literally just repeating himself at this point. I feel like it's better to just interact with the chat. Like, I've already talked about these sort of things. Oh, and they're like, oh, what about with white majority states? He's like, I just mentioned a bunch of fucking places, and he's like, oh, but I'm just talking about America. When there's not a vast white majority in America, then it's bad. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's an obvious shift of the goalpost, dog. Plus, a lot of the reason that places are Democrat is because of big cities, because big cities are generally Democrat, because urban places are generally Democrat.
Democrats passed all this, right? Anti-free speech, anti-Second Amendment, facilitating the rest. Conditions got bad. Quality of life got bad. White people are in the minority, right? What happened in...
I literally said when I was talking about Singapore that I don't agree with their entire system. I said that economically they're fine, but other than that, they're not the best.
What is happening in Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Virginia? Immigrants are coming into these states. They're voting Democrat. They're getting Democrats elected. They're getting complete, unprecedented control of the government, and they're passing policies that continue to facilitate this process and make it worse. That's the long game. That's a long game. That's how it all fits together. You cannot oppose any of the fruits of this without opposing step number 1. You can't oppose step number 4 without opposing step number 1. In other words, boomers think it's so bad, socialism and big government and high taxes and gun control and abortion, and I am with you. I'm with you. I'm not a socialist.
Oh, I forgot to mention abortion as one of the things that the Republicans are anti-freedom with. That's a big one too.
Like a hyper free market guy, but I'm not a socialist. I'm not in favor of public health care. I'm not in favor of gun control. I'm not in favor of abortion. But they will say they're against all those things, but then at the same time say, well, immigrants are fine. They just have to come here legally. They just have to come here legally. They just have to figure out the paperwork. And immigrants coming here is actually a good thing. We need them. We need them for our economy.
Yeah, because there's a massive shortage. There's a massive labor shortage throughout the country. So we definitely need more immigrants. Like economically, criminality-wise, immigrants are very helpful to the country. Now there's obviously this argument, but we obviously can't enforce ideology. Democrats are not that much worse than Republicans and all that shit. And just because somebody has a bad ideology doesn't mean we can force them out of the country. I would actually be fine with like saying that, oh, first generation immigrants, you guys can't vote. You're not assimilated to this country yet. You might not be able to fully assimilate, so we're not going to let you vote yet. I'd be fine with that. You can't become citizens in the first generation. I'd have no problem with that. But to say that a businessman can't hire an immigrant or an immigrant can't legally come to the country and try to pursue his own life, try to pursue his own happiness, I don't know, man. That just seems very anti-American to me.
We need them. Donald Trump said unemployment is so low that big firms need them to fill the jobs. White people won't take the jobs. So we don't like gun control, all the rest.
Yeah, white people won't take the jobs, obviously. Wages are too low and work is too difficult. White people are fucking lazy.
But we do on immigrants. What is the consequence? What is the consequence? Immigrants come here and it comes full circle. And Democrats vote for more immigration and the cycle goes on. This has been going on for 50 years. This is what the New York Times describes as a tidal wave. It is a tidal wave. What did this guy say? Charles Poland, the 85-year-old retired history professor from one of these counties in Virginia. He said it is a totally different world.
And this pure electoralism of Nick is just disgusting. Like he's obsessed with being anti-Democrat and pro-Republican. Who cares? Neither of these parties are any good. Both of them are abandoning individual rights. This whole problem of the abandonment of individual rights and bad pro or anti-freedom policies, this is a problem that's been with our country for most of the past couple of years because of the ideologies of our country, because of the colleges, the ideas that are pushed on the most intellectual people. The ideas of the intellectuals are destroying the country. Most immigrants don't really care like most other people. Most immigrants don't really care. They're not going to come here with some hidden agenda in mind to destroy America and to take away our guns and to take away our free speech rights. Like, they're just going with the culture that they come to. They see this culture, that they see this land of opportunity, America. They come here, they adapt to the culture. And when the culture is very anti-individual rights, very anti-selfishness, very anti-business, very anti-individual, they're going to adapt to that. And they do assimilate. They assimilate to our anti-individualist culture.
His family farm is now dotted with subdivisions filled with 4- and 5-bedroom homes that sell for $750,000. He said, if my parents came back today, they wouldn't recognize the place. The changes came like a tidal wave. This is the tidal wave. This is how a tidal wave starts. This is how it grows. It's like a hurricane. It's metastasizing. It's growing off the coast. And it's crashing onto our shores. It's crashing all the way into the inland in the interior of the country. And it is destroying everything in its path. And ultimately, people say, well, so what? You're against immigration because Republicans can't win elections? No. It's because what do these people do when they get into office? They bring in more of them, and they pass more bad policies. So sure, California is bad because of immigrants, and who led in the immigrants was Democrats. But it's also bad because of all these other things that are going on too. In short, you really can't oppose anything bad in the country without seeing what the root cause of it is. Now, in some sense, maybe off to the side, you've got WASPs and a certain other group that introduced the first wave of immigrants, right? And in a certain sense, you got to, something had to get the ball rolling over here. Maybe that's a relevant conversation for another day. That somewhere out here, you know, there was this sort of like moon-like structure. There was some kind of hexagonal structure that projected this initial trend, you know, and sure, it was a lot of WASPs, a lot of other people too. And they really...
There's some data for you guys, just in case you're wondering whether immigrants are good or bad.
Really got the ball rolling, and they kind of pushed it, but now it is just self-sustaining. It is self-perpetuating. How do you put a stop to it? How do you put a stop to these states turning blue and them taking our guns and taking away our free speech?
You fix the culture. You don't put this band-aid over immigration and pretend like that's going to fix our extremely destructive and anti-individualistic culture.
Our country's becoming unrecognizable. Hey, stop bringing them here. Stop bringing them here.
You don't change a culture through politics. You don't change the ideology of a country through politics. You change it through cultural change. You change it through debates, through talking to people, through rational argument, through those sort of things.
Stop bringing them here. We've had enough. We don't have a problem with them. I don't hate immigrants. They just can't be here. I don't hate you. I just don't want you to come live in my house, right? How many people are watching the show right now? I don't...
Whose house? A country is not someone's house. What a collectivist view. It's this view that this country is this house that belongs to us people. No, there's just individual people with individual properties. And there's no conflicts of interest among rational men. There's no conflicts of interest between immigrants and Americans unless somebody can use force on the other. So obviously I'd be for like restricting immigration because of welfare, because of those sort of things, if immigrants are taking from welfare. Now I'm still iffy on that because they actually do contribute more to the tax system than they take away from it. But I'm still iffy on that one. That's my only thing that I'm not certain on. I think we might need some sort of restrictions on immigration before we can fully switch. We need some restrictions on immigration before we can, while we're still not entirely free, while we're still not an entirely free country, but we still should largely leave it open because a restriction on immigration is still a violation of individual rights of the business owner in this country who wants to hire an immigrant worker, to the house contractor, to the who wants to sell them a house, to all these people who want to interact with immigrants and trade with them.
I don't hate everyone watching this show, but I also don't want them to come.
And immigrants enter people's houses less than native citizens. There's a lot less crime among among immigrants than native born people.
Flooding through my front door and eating my food and laying on my couch and breathing my air and shitting on the floor and shooting up on the floor, right?
Really, not everyone's an atomized individual. Not everyone's an individual. Where's the collective mind? Where's our collective consciousness? I don't see it. Can you point me to our collective mind, to our collective stomach? Can you point me to any of these things? Shut the fuck up with your bullshit. No, there's no such thing as individuals.
And drinking out of the toilet, and they've got tuberculosis, but I also don't want that. That doesn't mean I hate you. I just don't want you to live in my house. I don't hate immigrants, but they just can't be here. I love immigrants. I just love them where they are. I love them before they emigrate from their country. I don't hate anybody. I just love them where they are. You know, when Chinese are in China, oh, knock your socks off. Indians in India, wow, great. That's such a pungent, smell. Mexico,
oh God, the disdain he has for these people. Holy shit. And I mean, this is just pure like ethno-state type arguments here. Like, oh, you just stay with your ethnicity, stay with your own kind, and just we can all be separate, all separate peoples. Like, holy shit.
I'm Mexican. Oh, I love Mexico, but Mexico is over.
Oh yeah, Daniel, I got you, bro. I'll throw some food into that collective stomach to help you out, bro.
There, it's not here. And this is what people have to come to grips with. This explains it all. This is the cycle, and this is the part that is really the trick. This is the stream. This is the tidal wave that is eroding the traditional American nation. Everything about it. Its culture, its people, its heroes, its history, its holidays, its songs, its dances, its mythology, its flag. Everything is being destroyed and eroded by this.
Our flag is being destroyed.
process. And the best part about it is this will cause externalities that will make it impossible to stop it. Taking away your guns, what do you think that's about? Taking away your free speech, what do you think that's about? They know what they're doing. Externalities are shooting off of this cycle. And part of the erosion is they're taking away the ability for us to put a stop to this or to resist it if it gets too bad. Because that's what their end game is in mind. What's going to happen when we're in the minority and the media still hates us and the history textbooks still say that white people are evil and they enslaved blacks and they killed Native Americans and they bullied Asians, right? And they Holocausted Jews. What is going to happen? Media hates us. Textbooks.
I mean, white people did enslave blacks and Holocaust Jews, but
are teaching anti-white history. We don't have guns.
Anti-white history. I mean, these are just facts. These are just facts that happened in history. I mean, it's bad what people did in the past. Now, you shouldn't identify with these white people of the past. I don't identify with them. I think they're fucking terrible people. I think the white people of the past are disgusting, despicable human beings for their enslavement of people, for their killing of the Jews. Not necessarily for for some of the things they did to Native Americans. Or to Native... I don't like how he uses Native Americans here. It's really fucking weird.
We can't have hate speech. You know, hate speech is outlawed. And now they're demanding reparations. Does it really take a strong imagination to figure out what kind of country that's going to look like? What is happening there? It's extortion. It's extortion. They're coming here, stealing the land, stealing our resources, expropriating it at gunpoint. And that's what it is. We don't want to be a minority, and they don't want to be a minority too. And those things are mutually exclusive, right? They don't want to be a minority. Nobody does. And we don't either. But, you know, I also want to look out for my own self-interest in a certain sense. This is called tribalism. This is unavoidable.
Dog, Tiago, bro, if you heard that argument and thought I was collectivizing and being a collectivist, holy shit, you got to figure out rewind the fucking video and see what I was arguing again. Holy shit.
Nobody wants to be in the minority. Nobody in a multiracial democratic country wants to pull the short end of the stick. Nobody wants to believe, or nobody wants to feel like they're on the outside. Nobody wants to feel like they're not getting as much public services as another group. Nobody wants to feel like they're
public services. Not a big fan of public services.
Footing the bill for another group. Nobody wants to be a minority. But somebody has to be a minority. And is it going to be white people or non-white people? This is tribalism. We cannot pretend that these urges and impulses, that these realities don't exist. We cannot hand wave them away and say, I'm not cynical, like Charlie Kirk does. I'm not cynical. I'm not listening. I'm not cynical. I'm just not cynical. I'm not cynical. Well, they're pretty fucking cynical. You know, apologies for the language, but what do we see on Netflix all day long? Dear white people. New Year's resolutions for white people. White people can't dance. White people are evil. Fuck white people. Okay? So, yeah, maybe we're not cynical. That's the problem, because they're...
What a fragile little bitch. Good lord. Oh, dear white people. Well, you're fucking making all these jokes about fucking about Jews and blacks and like, good lord. You can't deal with a racial joke when it's directed at your kind, but you can make them constantly. You're not fucking edgy, dog. You can't deal with racist jokes. You can't fucking deal with that shit. Fucking pussy ass.
They're pretty fucking cynical, and they're the ones who are going to be running the government, and we're not going to have any guns, and we're not going to have the numbers, and we're not going to have the government. And what do we do then? What do our children do then? What do our grandchildren do then?
We move on. We fucking live with it. Oh man. And also, let me just say before I close out, or before I stop this particular thing that I'm gonna post on YouTube afterwards. Where is it? Is it this one? Please be this one. They're more American than us. There you go. They're more American than